by the power of Greyskull.
That's right, everybody. We have the power. Hey, thank you for joining us. Welcome to Secret Identities with your podcast hosts, the tenacious TDubb, and I'm your savage Jody. We are here to bring you news, reviews, discussion, maybe a few laughs about everything comics, TVs, movies, and the media landscape. How you doing today, Tally?
I'm doing good, man. Just excited. It is coming off a small Comic Con show this past weekend, and getting into the mood for this Masters of the Universe movie that's on the horizon. So, it goes all the way back from being a kid, just thinking about the old toys and everything that's involved. And because there's been such a gap of time with this IP, which you'll find out about. I think it's just making all the fans of it anxious to see what the product is when it comes out.
And that's
Yeah,
what
I
we
think
got in
this one
store today.
has.
We got a lot of Masters
Yeah,
Universe talk, and I see you
yeah.
dressed for the part.
Oh yeah, you too, Mr. Skeletor. Yeah, I that's interesting because I saw a bunch of the merchandise. You're out at Walmart and Target, and this is funny because it ties into the overall premise of the actual TV show, the cartoon that came out in the 80s, with the toys being out first and uh, the cartoon being based on the toy line back in those days. They actually put the toys out on time. They were out months ahead of uh, the movie. So it's great to see that. I know a lot of other product lines that come out, they come out a tad too late, and it kind of suffers, because they're tightly, grasping onto, is this movie going to pass or fail, and then the toy line. But I think with the toy line with Masters of the Universe, the retro figures have been reinvigorating it and keeping the word of mouth going over the last few years. So
An
yeah.
interesting fact is I actually owned He-Man action figures before I even knew what He-Man was.
Oh wow,
Apparently, the
wow,
toys
yeah,
were the toys were out in advance of the cartoon, at least in our area, I believe, because I got them
yeah.
for Christmas and I was like, "What are these? These are cool," but I had no idea what they were. In fact, somebody who's a toy historian can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the initial release of He-Man was released without the Power Sword. He
Yeah,
had a regular
I think I
sword
remember that.
because I
Yeah,
remember when I was a kid. Now I've always thought there's a possibility that as a kid I just lost track of it, but I remember
yeah.
Christmas Day, him having his buckler shield and this non-power sword in his hand, and so
Huh.
yeah, but yeah, so and actually He-Man and Telly and I go back a long ways because
Oh yeah.
He-Man and the Master of the Universe has been one of the prime distractors for us where we're supposed to be working. every
Yeah,
every
that's true.
time we get together, we're supposed to be doing something creatively. Somehow He-Man comes up and it turns into a conversation for too long.
Yeah, when we were researching for this show, it explains one of the on the documentary that we both watched. There is a part where they actually explain what inspired them to make He-Man, and I think the overall basis of that is what inspires the people that are making their own IPs, whether they saw the documentary or not. It's based off of, human values. And I think a lot of people kind of resonate towards that. And it's almost like, hey, you're making a comic book. Remember when they made that He Man toy line, or remember when they made that He Man cartoon, or remember when they made that He Man comic book? What was the main idea of that? And I think a lot of people just incorporate those values and those must haves into what they're making for the product to appear. So I think yeah, we've had a lot of great laughs off of He-Man and the way he was drawn, and how come they couldn't figure out his secret identity, just the same as it resonates towards Superman and Clark Kent. So a lot of those factors come in, and it makes for a lot of fun. And one thing that a lot of people, and it reminded me of doing this research and talking about the movie and the old show, is the campiness in it. There's a lot of inside jokes and stuff that you only see between those characters, and it's just like, wow, I didn't see that years ago when you were a kid. we grew up in the same area, same neighborhoods, and I think my seeing the cartoon and the toy commercials is uh, wanted what pushed me to ask for those figures for my birthday or for Christmas. And I think my mom and dad got them from Montgomery Ward's and Sears, which is dating to both of us. I believe the figures were like $4.97. I can remember the price tags on them. And yeah, I think I remember they had the power swords, but uh, Skeletor had a purple one and He-Man had the silver one, and you could snap them together. But what's funny is that in the cartoon, I never remembered Skeletor having his own version of the power sword. He had the staff with the ram's head on
He
it.
did. He had the staff.
So that
Yeah.
yeah, so
Well,
I don't want to
they
spoil
discussed
what
that.
we got
Yeah,
coming
they
on.
discussed that
Yeah,
later. Um,
yeah.
Now, one thing I don't think I've ever admitted to you, Telly, is I actually preferred Shira.
Really?
It's not obviously I didn't have a She-Ra action figure, but as far as the cartoons are concerned, I felt like the She-Ra cartoons had a more consistent story and had more maturity to them. And I thought that
Yeah.
Hordak was less of a cringe villain than Skeletor. Now, I mean, Skeletor is iconic, but
Uh
as a kid, you always knew Skeletor was going to lose. Where with Hordak, it felt like there was more peril to the story. So, you know,
yeah. Yeah, that is true. And I remember now you just reminded me because I did all this research and we both, watched old episodes and things of that nature. But I'll have to. This is making me since it's He-Man week, or month or whatever. I want to go back because I faintly remember them crossing over She-Ra with the He-Man cartoon towards the end. And if
yeah,
I'm not mistaken, Hordak made a cameo on the He-Man cartoon, which Hordak was She-Ra's villain, and then you had Skeletor as He-Man's, and
well,
they came
I
together.
don't want to spoil it for you, but do you know the connection?
No, I don't.
She-Ra is He-Man's sister.
Oh yes, yes,
Okay.
that connection. I do. Oh yeah, yeah.
uh,
And I think now I'm a pause there. We'll rewind and go back to that when we get further into this episode. But I have a question for you that came about in the third episode, and I don't know if that was on your list to watch, but when it came on, I had to rewind it and restart. I said, "Wait a minute, did I hear that right?" And so I'll go back and ask you that question when we get to your part that you're going to talk to me about in your trivia and see if you actually
I'm no,
know the answer to
I'm
that.
curious. I'm curious about that. Well, no, go no, go ahead. Go on. What is it?
Okay, so in the third episode, they spotlight Man at Arms and they talk about
Oh,
how he's Tila's
Tila's
father,
adopted father.
is an adoptive father.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
right.
said, "What?
Yeah.
I don't remember that as a kid."
When I rewatched, I was like, "Oh yeah, I do remember that," because I remember the reveal of who her real parent is later in the episode.
Yes, but then do you notice when you watch these serial cartoons or even live action shows that we're fans of, sometimes they get so far out along with the episodes like, 60, 70, 80, 100 episodes, and it's almost like did they forget their continuity? Because or did they make changes and want you to forget that because back then you didn't have the ability to watch the previous episodes unless it came around on the carousel and you got to see a repeat. But in this case, it's almost like they contradicted themselves later on in the He-Man lore, and I was like, did they forget that they revealed that? And then
Well,
I don't know for sure.
my guess would be, since I don't know this for sure, but on Fat Man on Batman, Kevin Smith's podcast, he did a lot of interviews with Paul Dini. Paul Dini talked a lot about the creative work that they were doing uh, with He-Man's Master Universe. Because Paul Dini, the creator of Harley Quinn, was actually one of the writers for He-Man Masters Universe, and he gave the impression that it was such a uh, I'm not going to say sweatshop, but there was so many people working on it so all at once that
Mhm.
they probably weren't written to be made sequentially. So
That's true. Okay, yeah.
they dropped those little tidbits in there, but they really didn't pay canonical reference to them in other episodes because they weren't sure what episodes they were going to air in. So
Yeah.
your actual episode numbering is probably based on original airing, not based on the roadmap of how they're being written. So maybe
Okay, I
you'll see
understand.
references from season 1 to season 2, but they were bought in such large orders. Like I think it was like 63 episodes or something, or more than that. More than that.
65 for the
Yeah,
first season.
yeah. So
Yeah.
65 episodes being made almost concurrently, and a bunch of writers just chopping away at story. So yeah, that's
Man,
probably why
I
that
tell
is.
you, when you talk about the amount of episodes, and when you're younger, we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old back then, and uh, I don't know if you did this, this isn't a sidebar or something like that, but you when you saw a new episode every week, it fed your hunger for more and more of whatever that show was that you were watching. And if you have that many episodes and they're coming on consistently with a season order, you're happy that you're getting a new episode. These people don't know nowadays that you get a new episode, a new season of something, and they're happy that they get all 13 episodes. But you're only talking 13 episodes. What are you going to do after that? 65 episodes. That's a year's worth of weekly of a show, and
But those were
that's a
showing
long
daily.
time.
Well, actually, the reason the animation industry went for that specific number is they didn't expect consistency out of kids. So they
Yeah,
wanted enough episodes that they could show every day of the week, 5 days of the week, for consistently 3 months straight, and then flip them
yeah,
and recycle them because it'll be a whole new
that's
group
true.
of kids watching. So
Yeah,
they're basically they're banking on the fact that we'd get distracted. So 65 episodes was really just about a little over 3 months of cartoons before you got
yeah,
bored and moved on. So that's really why
yeah.
that number was there.
Did you ever get mad as a kid when a repeat came on? Like, man, I seen
I
this
got mad
episode.
as a kid when you got the continuation to be continued episode, and then the next
Oh
episode
yeah.
was not the continuation.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, they do that nowadays with regular sitcoms. They'll say to be continued, and then you watch the next. Oh, it's the last episode of the time slot, and then you wait for tomorrow at the same time when you get off work and say, okay, let's ready to tie this up, and it's not the next episode. You're like, oh man, like what's going on here? But yeah, but for the most part, they did a great job keeping us entertained. But I think when we get older, years later, I mean, you're talking a 30, 40-year-old cartoon at this point, and you see the flaws, but I mean, just how hard they work to keep you occupied and keep your mind going back then. I think it was a really good thing, especially with this Masters of the Universe. Because when I was a kid, we didn't call it Masters of the Universe. We called it He-Man, even though it was listed as Masters of the Universe. Uh, you know, we called it He Man, but for whatever trademark copyright issues, all the changes that it made, the reboots that came through, they tend to make changes to obey those rights. But yeah, He Man would always be He Man, and She-Ra will always be She-Ra. I remember my my cousins that were female, they were excited about uh, that show because it gave younger girls something to cheer for as well. So I think that was really cool. Uh, and then, 20, 30 years later, when you got the Kevin Smith reboot, where Tila was the focal point, it gave uh, them something to cheer about as well. So a lot of different things with this cartoon. So yeah,
Yeah, I haven't watched that Kevin Smith reboot, even though I'm a big Kevin Smith fan, and I'm kind of
yeah.
interested in what he did with it. Um,
I think you'll be entertained. I haven't seen every episode. I think I only started the second Revelation series, but it's pretty entertaining. You'll see the difference. A lot of updated stuff. I thought the character designs were very well done, very well updated, and the overall animation was really neat to see. So I think you'll like it from that standpoint. And I would love to hear your take on it.
I would like
So
to see after rewatching Tila's Quest, the episode we were just talking about, and
yeah,
being reminded of the reveal of who Tila is eventually supposed to be. Spoilers for you
mhm.
guys out there. She is the daughter of the sorceress, and she's supposed to eventually take the powers of the sorceress. I wonder how faithful Kevin Smith's story is to that canon. I'll be
Yeah,
disappointed
yeah.
if it's not. I'll be disappointed if it's not. And I trust Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin, and they were both uh, instrumental in the writers' room for that series. So I'm sure they gave us a good product. I just wonder if they tapped the vein on something. And it would be sad if they didn't tap the vein because you wouldn't have to watch very far to get to that information. It's in 3 half-hour
Yeah,
episodes, So,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
definitely.
actually since doing my homework for this episode, I've been thinking I need to give this Netflix thing a chance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially with coming up with the hype of the movie. They you never know if they put so now from seeing all of the documentary footage and the lead up for this movie. The new director is a passionate fan, so I think for the diehard fans, I think there are going to be some satisfying Easter eggs I've heard that are going to be dropped from all of the series, including the Kevin Smith one. So I'm anxious to see those things, and I'm one of those type of people that like to go outside the box and research and uh, kind of look at these other uh, podcasts that actually took the time to pick out those Easter eggs for people that may have missed it. So uh, that would be something that I'm looking forward to checking out. So very happy about seeing that. So what did so I guess as you say, just like we used to do in Mr. Fasso's class, the proof is in the homework that you did. You actually don't just show up with the job ad. You gotta show your homework and show the proof that you did it. So what do you have in store with us?
Well, I did some homework. Yeah. I would tell as we discussed earlier, T Dub and I we watched the 1987 Master of the Universe movie with Dolph Lundgren. This is T Dub's first time watching it, which
Fun fact.
I don't know how that's possible.
I it actually is something that I had forgot about for years because let's see, in '87 that dates me. I was 9 years old. There was another movie which is a different IP that had my attention for that whole summer and following year, and 35 to 40 years later, still has my interest. It was Transformers '86. And when I was younger, I didn't go to the movies as much as a lot of the kids in my neighborhood, just because we had one theater there growing up, and it depended on what was shown there. Uh, I chose to see the Transformers '86 animated movie. I didn't go see the Masters of the Universe movie because as a kid looking at it, it didn't look like the cartoon at all. So it didn't have my attention. It was a little bit, and we'll talk more about this. It was a little bit more unrecognizable as a He-Man movie because they went so left field, in my opinion, on how they carried on this movie. So that was one of the factors. Uh, and yeah, I had only seen clips of the movie. I never sat and watched it in one setting until this past week in doing research for this podcast episode. I did grab some popcorn or assorted snacks and watched it in its entirety in one sitting for the first time since the movie came out. And uh, I thought the movie was good. I thought it had uh, some pretty good scenes that were memorable. Now, again, uh, as Jody knows this, I rooted for the villains in a lot of the cartoons and movies and toy lines that I grew up with. Megatron with Transformers, Moonra with Thundercats, Skeletor with He-Man. Uh, I was just always attracted to the bad guys because they had a higher motivation to win. The heroes to me in GI Joe, they just had to stop the villain. They didn't have to win. It's almost in relation to wrestling. If I'm the champion, I just got to stop you from beating me for the title. I don't have to win. So I think the villain's motivation to win at any means, pull people in that believed in the same thing that you believed in, making all the cool followers same costumes. Some of the designs were just better for the bad guys and just were more attractive to me as an artist standpoint than the heroes. They weren't as cheesy. So uh I rooted for a lot of the villains, but the Skeletor in this movie was different than the Skeletor from the cartoon. So that was my first take. But I still think out of this movie, the last 20 minutes was the most interesting to this movie for me. Skeletor getting his god armor and having the all gold on, I think was a
Wow.
really
These
cool piece.
these are insanely divergent takes from what I would have expected here, Telly. Insanely divergent takes from what I would have expected.
So give me your take. What did you if you had to roll up a review on this movie, what did you think of the 87 movie?
All right. Well, I had an insanely different experience with this movie than you have because this would have easily been the 56th time I've seen that movie.
Wow.
Not because I loved it, because I was a uh, child of divorce, raised by basic cable, and this was in heavy rotation throughout my childhood.
See, we had basic cable, but we didn't have it a lot, or I guess I didn't watch it a lot when it was on. But I can tell you, it's funny that you say that it was basic cable because I don't ever remember. I remember a lot of movies that are in my rotation that are my favorites, no matter what the IP, action, comedy, superhero genre, sci-fi, whatever. I don't remember this movie making it to regular TV a lot, if at all. It at all.
I saw it
And
what I would like to call a lot of many times. Saw this
okay,
movie a lot.
yeah, but
Now,
like I said, basic cable difference from regular TV. Fox,
oh yeah,
CBS,
I
ABC.
don't think it ever made to
Yeah,
regular TV. In fact,
yeah,
I think this movie. I'll get to that. I don't want to bury the lead. Well, there's 2 points, and it's kind of reminiscent of what we discussed last week. I think that because of the generation I come from, I always watch things and I say, what was the good? Where was the good part? What would I keep if I had to keep this? And I think Dolph Lundgren was a get. I don't think he is the quintessential He-Man, but he plays the character with a lot of strength, but
yeah,
there's a lot of kindness in him. And the way he interacts with the humans, you'd expect a guy his size on such a serious mission to just kind of want to shove everybody aside, but he's very warm when he interacts with those characters. So I think he
mhm,
pulled that off masterfully. I think that if you watch that and you compare it to what our expectations were of him coming out of Rocky 4, you would have thought he was stiff and he got the job because of his muscles. But it's
yeah,
not the case at all. Like he really, I don't say that he dedicated himself to the part because I think it was just a role for him. But I do think that he brought a lot more to that role than a lot of muscle bound guys would have. So like, and really, when you're casting He-Man, everybody's looking at the physique of the guy. It was an early discussion with the new film, like that guy's not big enough to be He-Man. So, but we'll save that for later. So I would say he is one of the best parts of the film, and secondly, uh, my hot take here that Telly's going to disagree with is Frank Langella as Skeletor. Now, my I've had criticism in hindsight for this movie because I felt like the Skeletor makeup was abominable. I always used to call it pudding face. It looks like he's just got vanilla pudding on his face, and that's makes. But actually re-examining it, honestly, I think it was some really decent monster makeup for the time, and it would have just really cinched it if it had more shading. But I think they probably did that intentionally, not to scare children.
yeah. That's true. That
Now,
not to make it so like because easily you saw a lot of horror movies made back in that day where a skeleton mask will look more horrific Uh, and I think you're right. They kind of scaled back on that because they didn't want to make it so terrifying
Right.
because they did have other animalistic creatures that were on his side in the movie, and thinking so. I remember thinking of the material of his mask. Uh, you remember the stuff that they used in kindergarten where you would make your handprints in.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of that
Yeah.
stuff, the quick dry ceramic stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it kind of it reminded me of in that. So yeah,
Now,
yeah,
but staying on Frank Langella is so impressive because even after all these years, he still says it. Now, this is a serious actor, folks. This is a serious actor. This guy's been real stuff. He says it's one of his favorite roles. It's one of
wow,
his favorite
wow, that's
roles because it was one of the only things he's ever been in that his kids would love. He was so excited to take it
yeah.
because his
I
kids were
yeah,
excited about it.
there was an excerpt where he got the idea to audition for the role. I think it was one of his family members, younger kids, nephew or grandson or something, and he was saying, I have the power, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he told him about the He-Man, and what he was accustomed to, and it made him put in for the role. But yeah, yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, a very attractive movie for the time. And when you're watching it in 2026 for a movie that came out in 1987, you see a lot of similarities to the other movies that came out. I think the action sequences reminded me a lot of the set pieces, reminded me of Spaceballs. I told you with the guards, and then come to find out, watching the documentary, you heard a lot about they
Good again.
had in the contract where they didn't want He-Man killing anybody on screen, so that's why they kind of went with the lasers from the guards from Skeletor and things of that nature. So some
Well,
interesting facts that came from that.
that brings me to my other point, and it's another complete 180 from your opinion. I think the set design, overall um, vibe of this movie is horrible. I think it is a clear example of what we also talked about last week about filmmakers not trusting the source material. Because
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you look at He-Man, the Masters Universe is very vibrant. It's very fantasy. It's very honestly, it's more fantasy than Lord of the Rings. If you look at that
yeah,
show,
yeah,
the bright colors and and talking trees and all these other things, it's a fantasy world.
yeah,
This is not what you get in this movie. But the Eternia that you get in this movie looks more like a set stolen out of the Dark Crystal than it does anything that would
yeah.
be in He-Man. Everything's
That's another
bleak.
one I was thinking of.
Everything is bleak. Everything is dark. And it looks very gross. It looks like Skeletor's world, not He-Man's world.
That's
I
true. The Castle Grayskull still that I kept seeing, it looked like a silhouette of a pirate ship from the Goonies.
hmm
It didn't
hmm
look like an actual castle.
And then,
So
of course, the movie cheat of the time, so you wouldn't have to pay a fantasy budget for a movie, just bring it to our world. And they
yeah,
chose to do that. Damn near the entire movie beyond that point is filmed at night in a dirty
yeah,
ass city.
yeah,
So every opportunity they had to inject some brightness into this movie, it wasn't there. And
yeah,
they replaced the majority of Skeletor's henchmen with henchmen that do not resemble their original ones or brand new ones we didn't care about. Uh, Point of note, though, I think his name is Blades, the guy with two swords and the metal helmet.
yeah.
The
I was
guy
going to
who
talk about him.
I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, Principal Strickland from Back to the Future is one of Skeletor's minions. And
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
and the funny thing is, I'm laughing to myself about it, and then later, Principal Strickland from Back to the Future shows up as the cop. I'm like, what?
yeah, yeah. I put those. I put it together when I was watching it. I said, I know that guy from somewhere, and I go, Back to the Future, the principal, and I thought that was hilarious. That and then he ends up staying on eternity at the end. He said, "You're the kid's like you're staying." He's like, "Yeah, what am I going to go back to that world for?" I
But
was like, "Wow,
Blade
yeah,
Skeletor, the Skeletor's henchman, was actually also the stunt coordinator for the entire movie.
that I heard that too." The other piece was they had a contest uh, years ago when the movie came out where you could win a walk on role for the show, and the director casted the walk-in the contest winners. Is it Pig Boy, the one that hands the staff to Skeletor?
Mm.
He was the contest winner.
Okay,
I don't know if that was on your trivia list.
major complaint. Well, I haven't touched the tribute list yet, but nope.
Oh man,
Okay, here we go. Major complaint. No
what's
power
that?
sword. No power sword. He Man's.
Well, he didn't he had the landline sword. I say it because it wasn't the Wi-Fi one because he had to plug it into where Skeletor stuck it in to get his power. I thought that was hilarious. So yeah, no, I think the direction that from what we can see from the previews is that there's going to be some more general based focus on the power sword in the new movie that's coming out.
I just.
So
I mean,
hopefully so.
they threw away so much of the original designs. They could have at least kept something as passive as the design for the sword, but they didn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
and
thought
and
that
it,
was
and they didn't even make something that was unique enough to be merchandisable as a second thing, right? So it doesn't make
yeah,
sense that they threw it away. Get a guy to make a mold and make a plastic sword for, you know. It just didn't make a
yeah,
lot of sense to me. And then like,
yeah.
my final criticism would be the B plot on with the Earthlings about Courtney Cox and her mother and the kid with the synthesizer is so cringe. It is so
Yeah,
cringe. It's like, for a movie that goes out of its way to be dark and scary relative to its bright, not scary source material, it has the
it
most
seems
cringe Sesame Street B plot in it. It's just there's
yeah.
so much discontinuity in how the story's put together. I would say overall, and I am extraordinarily surprised at you saying you liked Skeletor in his gold armor,
I
because
I
this is
there
such
I
a
like the fact that it to me what made me think of it was the when you take the basic villain and you upgrade him to a certain point for the so-called final boss or final battle. It reminded me of the transformation of like well, even though it was a little bit short-lived and quick to the final piece, which it should have had a little bit more story, as in to play with the power sword leading up to the final battle. I think they could have spent a little bit more time and watched him evolve into that because that's where his ultimate source power was. It reminded me of the transformation of Megatron to Galvatron in the Transformers '86 movie. But no, the design could have been a little bit better, but I think the golden armor aspect could have been a lot more over the top, so to speak.
if he's getting more powerful and more dangerous, he shouldn't start looking more like a chandelier.
Well, that's
I
well,
mean,
well
the design, in
they
my
had the
opinion.
sorceress, they had the sorceress looking like a Christmas
Oh
ornament.
no, I mean,
That was like
don't even
it.
talk about
She,
the sorceress.
she looked like one of those chimes that you hang outside your on your porch,
It,
and if
it's
she moved, she would make too much noise. I
it's a
was like, what?
it's a good thing that Tila was raised by Man at Arms, because if the sorceress from this movie had to do it, she would have been breastfed on prune juice.
Yeah,
I mean, she was
they
just so old
they
and
went so outside of the box. The other problem where you say you had a hard time grasping like the armor, the other set piece part. Did you when I watched it because this movie reminded me of so many things like balled up into something. Evil Lynn, I couldn't get past the thought of Gozer in her female form from Ghostbusters. Her makeup, her short haircut, it was like she walked over from Ghostbusters and said, "Okay, now I'm doing Masters of the Universe." I was like, "What?" I was like, she, they had a distinct look from her from the cartoon.
I'm
Why didn't you go with that?
I'm willing to bet
I,
a certain artist friend is going to be upset with you about criticism of that character right now
oh
because
man, I'm
she's
sorry.
a supporting character from They Live. She's been all over B action movies and B horror. I hate her as a choice. I think they chose her because her eyes have that almost inhuman quality to it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean, I didn't say. I just thought that the make it just like I said, I'm a big fan of when they use the source material. It's like a huge, like 360 from what the source material is. It's like, okay, like who is she? And she doesn't even look like she, excuse me, belonged with Skeletor. I was like,
I can't even
it didn't
say
look.
I can't say that Sorceress had a lot of substance in the cartoon that it's a deviation from, but she was
You,
just kind of a hand wringing, run of the mill supervillain with no nuance and inexplicable power set where she could appear as the girl's dead mother. And how would she know to do that? Just based on a picture she found in her house, and she had no idea her parents were dead. It's like
yeah.
I mean, I just like the whole thing was just, whew,
When you were
rough,
talking about
rough, sir.
my eyebrows went up when you were talking about the whole displaced hero in modern times as opposed to what his home world looked like. They we've seen it so many times with Thor, and one IP that came to me was the Transformers movies. Those first three, where you have Shia LaBeouf, because you show the Transformer side of things, and then you have the B plot with the human side. It's crazy that movies 20, 30 years after this movie that we're talking about still suffer from the same plot issues when trying to drive the story. And I think you get a little too carried away. Now, yeah, and it just it resonates. I think they need to get better when they're telling their stories and make a decision and stick with it on what people want to see. Because I just think sometimes they go a little too far with trying to with the human aesthetic and trying to show that, and I think you get too far from the source material, and I think in this they could have did a lot more with it, because you ask any fan, and I welcome anybody of our viewers to chime on in the comments. What do you think would have made this movie better if you're fans of this movie or if you're not fans of this movie? Two things come to mind: Battle Cat and Orko.
Mm.
I always knew Orko because that's something from the trailer. Seeing that when I was a kid, going, yeah, this is a He-Man without Orko, or the sorceress looking like the sorceress, or Evil Lyn looking like Evil Lyn, but not even Battle Cat. Even if Battle Cat didn't even come to Earth, but if you just showed him on Eternia, I think that would have been fascinating to see.
All right,
But again,
I got,
cost.
I got one more pet peeve I just remembered. It wasn't in my
I,
notes.
I see. I'm glad I helped you with your homework.
I got one. I wasn't in my notes. But the big resolution of the broken cosmic key being that the punk kid that looks like the greatest American hero having a synthesizer back home. It's like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
Push the red button. Push the.
Gwildor is like, you're a master. Like, it, you don't have musicians in Eternia. Like, he's baffled by this kid that can sing a song. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Come
that
on.
was funny.
Like what?
I saw the correlation. Yeah, that when he took the cosmic key to the guy in the guitar shop or wherever he was, and he's like, push this button. He's like, you ever heard that? He's like, oh, I've seen plenty of those. Where? Where did you see this?
I'm
That's
telling.
great. That's like me sharing comic book news and stories with you about stuff we discussed. And you go, already knew that. I was like, you didn't know that. But yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's hilarious.
My dad used to do that to me and my brother, by the way. We'd say, Dad, we want to go see this movie. He said, Oh, I saw that on cable last week. I said, Dad, it's in the theater. What are you talking about? He said, No, I saw it on cable. We were like, I don't know what he was messing with us or I don't know. I don't know what he was doing. He was messing with us or whether he was serious, but we could never win that art. No, I saw that on tape. It's the one with that guy in
Yeah,
it.
that's hilarious. Yeah, yeah, a lot of people that I speak with in my circles, they were shocked like you were that I hadn't seen that movie as many times as you've seen it, and they're now we know why. But I think for that day and age, it's still for reading the comments that I've read online. There was a lot of people that just didn't understand that movie or where they were coming from. And I think I'm surprised before now with it being tied up in all the reasons why they couldn't make the movie, whether it was corporate red tape or whatever the IP. Uh, I'm surprised that it hasn't been a better take. But I think now the time is now that the people that are doing this new movie that we're about to go see, there's a chance that they could come away with a new direction for the franchise or really do it justice. Um, I I'm excited to see what happens with it. I'm excited to be a part of it and be able to review it. I'm kind of anxious to see what they do with it and compare the approaches and the stories. And you never know. We might come back and have some of the same complaints and some of the same mistakes that they made, but maybe not. So
Yeah, I don't believe
that
that
that's
for
the
a
fun part.
second. Everything I've
Yeah,
seen so far, and I'm not going to be overwhelmingly positive on this movie, but everything I've seen so far, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of attention to the details. There's so much faithfulness to the source material, and like, even if I go see a movie that I don't love, if there's faithfulness to the source material, I can go, well, this wasn't for me. It doesn't have to be for me. It was a cartoon for kids. So if this comes off as successfully as a He-Man movie for children that pays homage to that source material, I would respect it just as much as if it was a movie that was made for me that had all that stuff in there. Because
yeah,
I just
true.
think that I think it looks. I mean, like at first I was a little critical even of this because I was like, I like what I'm seeing. I mean, I like Idris Elba as Man at Arms. I think that's a great choice. I tell Telly you could cast Idris Elba as Tila, and I wouldn't complain because I just think he's a top notch actor. I think he's a good guy. He's got a good presence. He's got a good
Yeah,
attitude towards his roles. But I wasn't a fan of Prince Adam that they show, and I'm like, I don't know, this guy's got the look. And then I
yeah,
realized he's wearing the peach shirt in homage to Prince Adam's pink poet's blouse he wore in the cartoons. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's a lot of loyalty to the source material. That is really
yeah,
impressive. I was like,
yeah,
look at this guy. He looks like an Abercrombie model with a pink shirt on. Why the pink shirt?
yeah,
But when I realized, oh no, that's a Easter egg too. I was like, okay, that's really cool. The
yeah.
only thing
I,
that
I,
still gives me concerns about this movie is Jared Leto.
I I saw that, but they put out a final trailer this week for the movie that focuses on Skeletor and Evil Lyn and in their lair. Uh, and I went straight to the comments after watching it and saw a lot of positivity toward the voice, the laugh, and people were happy with it. They said, "Wow, he sounds really good." I was a little scared of what it was going to be, but they got some positive going into the movie this week. A lot of people were happy with what they've heard and what they saw from him. Now, uh, this is something in the documentary that we watched that's available on Tubi. What's the name of the documentary again?
The Power of Greyskull.
Yeah, it's available on Tubi now. It was part of our research homework for this episode, and uh, one of the things that one of the creators spoke about was the campiness to Skeletor. And not to hearing it from this documentary did I realize that when going back and watching several episodes of the cartoon, he actually had some funny stuff in that. And what it derives from in 2026, there are memes that's based around Skeletor. And you go, wow, this guy has his own memes because he was so funny. Even though he was a villain, he had a sense of humor. Even though Megatron in Transformers was straight and narrow with everything he said, some of the stuff he says to Starscream is pure comedy. And it's just like what they did with the campiness of Skeletor. There's a part in one of the episodes that they reused several times where uh, I think it's in the episode with the seed of evil, where the plant's growing all around Eternia, the tree or the plant, and Skeletor gets on the bubble, so to speak, and FaceTimes He-Man, and he's looking in this bubble, and he's talking right to He-Man, and he's like talking to him, and he's like, He-Man, why are you calling me? He's like, I didn't call you Skeletor, you called me. And I'm like, dude, this is so funny because like 30 some odd years later, it's the same thing we do in real life when you accidentally butt down somebody or you call somebody on FaceTime. Dude, I didn't mean to FaceTime you. I meant to regular call you. And I thought that was so funny. Like, I don't need your help, He-Man. And it's just like he's saying this with a straight skeleton face. You can't tell if he's smiling or not because it's the same skeleton face. And I mean, I heard a rumor that they touch on this in the new movie where he does have some campiness written into his role, and I'm so anxious to see if people pick up on it, let alone if they touch on it. But if they actually pick up on it and go, "Oh, that's hilarious that he's doing that," because there's no facial expression from Skeletor. If he's laughing, it's the same thing. It's just his mouth moving. So to see that correlation is just like, oh, I hope they do this, and it's a small part, but I hope they pull that off.
As those are the
But
reasons why I liked Hordak more.
yeah,
Because
yeah, Hordak.
Hordak really seemed like a threat, where Skeletor always seemed like a clown. Especially like in the one episode where he's running away, his hood falls off. You actually see the bald ass skull head.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And then that's that. Well, yeah, you got all of those little Easter eggs because remember, what was it that Orko would never be seen with his hat off, so he would do like a real quick switch where you couldn't see like what's under the hat. That was something they put in a bunch of the episodes, and that's something that you would love to carry over to the movie, but whether or not he's in it. But I thought that was funny as well.
Have you
So
seen anything with Orko in the new movie?
no, I'm hoping that it's
He's got to
something
be in
well
there.
kept.
He's got to be in
Yeah,
there.
somewhere. I hope they put him in there, because it would be hilarious to see it. Orko was the first He-Man figure I ever got.
I thought he was a mail-in. I thought he had a mail-in for him. I thought he was a
Well,
box tops
maybe
mail-in.
I'm trying to
I could be
remember.
wrong. I remember he had a zip where you zip and he scat.
Yeah, and he spit around. Yeah. Well, because I always had to do it on the floors upstairs in my house because the ceramic tile in my basement where I play with most of my toys had patterns uh, drilled into them, so you patterned into them, so the the spinning effect wouldn't work on it, or I had to
I
do it on the desktop.
I had an embarrassment of He-Man figures from day one. Like I said, I got them for Christmas. I got um, Castle Grayskull,
Oh
He-Man,
wow.
Skeletor, Zodak the Enforcer,
Huh.
the bird guy who I can't remember anymore. I want to say his name's like Volko. He was gray. He had a red head, and he had like bird wings on his arms. Yeah, I had so many from day one, and in fact, I always had a good amount of He-Man figures. I just never had ones that I loved. I remember my brother and I met some people that also liked He-Man, and we arranged a swap. We did like a mission in action prisoner trade where I got Ram Man and Eva Lynn from these guys down the street, and we traded
Oh,
some of
wow.
our some of our characters off, and our parents found out about it. They were furious. They made us swap them back, and we
Oh
were
my
like,
goodness,
man,
yeah. Yeah, I just looked it up a second ago. The Orco was a wide available figure. It was not a mail-in. It was in the wave 3 of the figures that were released in 1984. So yeah, yeah, I do remember the little zip feature for that. And you could actually take the hat off of the figure and he just had two blue ears sticking up with a black face with the eyes and the mouth. But yeah, I do remember that because I would lose the hat all the time. But yeah, Ram Man had the he was my second figure. Yeah, that was the thing. I didn't get the actual He Man figure till I think that Christmas because he was harder to find, and they the original He-Man, because then they came out with all the variations like Battle Armor He-Man and the one with the caps in the back, the fireworks He-Man. But the original He-Man was harder to find, as well as the Prince Adam, because his pink vest was like a very felt type of material that I
I
could
never had
actually
Prince
could
Adam.
come off.
Yeah, I never
Yeah,
had Prince
yeah,
Adam.
they were harder to find. But Ram Man was my second figure, and he had a button on the back of his boot that made him bounce up and down when you
Mm-hmm.
snapped him back in
Mm-hmm.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, my
But yeah,
first He-Man was I think Gen 1 He-Man. That's the one. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure came with a non-power sword variety sword. I could be
yeah,
mistaken.
he,
I think I
yeah. He
think
came.
I think
Yeah, I think you were talking about that.
I think James is gonna attack me. I think James is gonna be like, "That never happened," because he's out
Yeah.
collecting his toys. He'd be like, "That never happened." But
I remember the shield coming with him, and I remember my cousin Jesse having the He Man. I think it was like Power Punch He Man. You could put the caps in the back, and every time had the spring action to punch, it
I
would
had him.
pop or snap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Battle damage
But I
He-Man.
love. Oh, I love the battle where you move their chest plate up and down and it'd be cracked. Yeah, I hate He Man and Skeletor. I thought that was cool. My favorite vehicle was Wind Raider, the little green and yellow ship with the grappling hook. I thought that was awesome, and the sky sleds, uh, which were crazy because you had to hold on to them with your legs and your feet, the figures or the cartoon, but it had no seat. Like if you were to turn around and say, "Hey, look at that," you would fall off.
Is
I'd
that
say,
the one
"What
with the?
is this?"
That's the one with the detachable car up front, right?
Yeah,
That's the
and
one
it
you
had the
always see in the cartoon. You always saw that one in
yeah,
the cartoon. Yeah,
always saw that,
I
but
had that one. Yeah,
you didn't see the back of it till later
right.
in the cartoon that shot the missile
Shot one missile. Yeah,
because
one real red missile.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, red missile. But I always loved Wind Raider. I like that. And then you and I were talking about the spider.
I had it.
Was it Spider?
I don't know what the name of it was, but I had it.
I think it was Spider with the you put batteries in. That thing drained batteries, and it
Yes,
took
it
like
did.
C or D batteries.
Yeah.
Oh, you had to change them like every day because yeah, it sucked the batteries out of those. So we were hitting up Radio Shack back then for the radio for the batteries. Uh, I never had Castle Grayskull or Snake Mountain. I had Battle Bones.
I had that. Yeah, yeah. You had a little. Oh, I lost you. And we're back. We had a little internet outage on one of our ends. We're back. So, what did you think of the movie, Telly?
Um, you know, like I said, the far the distance in between 1987 2026, a lot of things happen in movies, a lot of things have happened with this property, but overall, you know, I just thought it took the wrong direction from something that they had that was ongoing. The show was still up and running when the movie was going on, so I think they could have made a better example by setting themselves up to maybe do 2 to 3 movies by following the source material more. The difference between the human side and the Eternia background, I just think was too far out left field. And just the set pieces and using the source material for the costumes and marrying that of what you already had, I think it would have been a better outcome for the movie as far as setting up the story for 1, 2, 3 trilogy. But for the sake of it, I'll give it a 2 out of 5 stars. One for effort, two for Dolph Lundgren and Langella's uh, performance. I think that helped with the second star. So that's what I'm at, 2 out of 5. I know people like James and stuff are gonna be like, "Are you crazy?" But I'm interested to hear what people's feedback are on
I
it.
I
What's
I
yours, buddy?
I pretty much agree with you. I think that
Yeah,
um, I think it's only getting a 2 out of 5 for select performances like Frank Langella and
yeah,
Dolph Lundgren. I think that it was so far divorced from the source material. It wasn't for kids. It was so
yeah,
silly. It wasn't for adults. This movie didn't know what it wanted to be. It was all over the map. It didn't follow the source material. It had no respect for the source material. Wasn't there's no canon to it. There's almost nothing good He-Man about it other than the energy that those two creators brought to two actors brought to it. Not even the script that they used, but the energy they brought to it. So I agree. Two out of 5 is definitely the best I would give it.
yeah,
But
definitely.
what's your opinion? You can contact us. Remember, if you ever want to contact us, you can reach us at our email contact at secret-identities.com or secretidentitiesmedia@gmail.com or on one of our socials at secret_identities_media on Instagram, secret_identities_pod on TikTok, or sec_ident_media on X Twitter. You can find links to these in the show notes or wherever we found us on the title card at the end of the show or a QR code I'm going to put right here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm anxious to hear what people have to say about it.
Yeah, we'd love to
Uh,
hear your feedback.
yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that's all we have for you for this week. We had a little trivia. If you want to do a little outro with the trivia, Telly.
Yeah, yeah, I'm ready.
All right, I got some little details about all things He-Man, not necessarily about one thing or the other. So I guess one thing that always was always curious about was what happened to Skeletor. Why does Skeletor look like that? Now I've heard a theory about it, but I actually did some research and I found the answer. And there's two.
What happened to Skeletor? You know, I don't think I ever tried to find out what happened to him. I think I was one of those guys that kind of fell in love with the character because, again, if I was a villain and I looked like that, I would be mad. But he kind of accepted who he was, and that's why I said the cartoon version, he was more, he had a campy comedic side. So he's like, hey, I'm stuck like this. I don't have the power to change myself to look normal. So I'm just going to try to rule Eternia and do what I can with what I have. And He Man needs me as much as I need him. So
Well, according to the 2002 He-Man cartoon, so this is not necessarily canonical, not in the original canon, anyways. Skeletor is actually originally Keldor, the brother of King Randor, He-Man's father. And
wow,
in an attempt to take over the kingdom, uh, Keldor was splashed with acid that burnt his face off, and
oh
he would have died, except he was assisted by an extra dimensional Hordak, which used dark magic to keep him alive. And he
wow,
dedicated his life to the mission of Hordak after that.
dang,
But
that's pretty interesting.
now in classic the original DC Comics He-Man canon, they list
Oh,
several different ways it could happen, including a curse and dark magic. So And that was as of see, it looked like 1983. So there's kind
Okay.
of an ambiguous answer going back, but in the 2002 cartoon, you have that one. So let me see. Okay, I got an interesting one for you.
What's it?
You might know this because this came up in a recent comic book thing, but Queen Marlena is actually from Earth.
Oh,
She was a NASA astronaut, and according to a 1982 Human comic, uh, her shipmates were Biff Beastman,
oh,
Beastman, Evelyn Powers, Evelyn, T.E. Scope, Triclops.
wow. Where'd you dig that at? Where'd you dig that up at?
that's
That
that's
that that it's like
that's
you found that near an attorney or somewhere. That's
that's yeah. I was
like
like,
wow, there.
what
That's
when it said Biff Beastman, I was like, get out of here. I would like to read this comic book. I want to know how they got
yeah.
turned into the bad guys.
And I don't know if it's still in my collection, but I had the first issue of the DC Comics He-Man because they had the mini comics too. Remember those that came with the
I
figures?
do, yeah.
Which is interesting. They actually have a collected edition book hardcover that you can buy like Amazon that had all of the mini comics collected in one hardcover volume. So to any of you fans out there that want to do some digging, that's a must have. That's really cool.
All right, my next one. I think you've heard this one from me before. Now, according to Paul Dini on the Fat Man on Batman podcast with Kevin Smith, he says when they were originally developing the He-Man series, they were
Mhm.
writing it. They said a lot of times they would just get blurry photographs of action figures from Mattel, and they'd be told to make up names for them or make up stories for them. So they had
Yeah.
no idea what it's about. And when they were originally drawing Orko for the cartoon, one of the artists drew an O on his chest. And they were like, "Oh, is that an O for Orko?" He said, "No, that's a zero for how many extra dollars in royalties we're going to get for how much work we do on this show."
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
That's funny.
the writers felt very stepped on by how little
Yeah.
credit they got for the show when
Mm.
how Mattel was really just cranking out figures with no explanations and just sending it to them and having them figure it out. So
That's crazy. And that and you and the when you see the amount of figures that they did that a lot.
yeah.
There's a lot of figures. Yeah, I didn't realize how many toys they had.
All right,
Oh, that's interesting,
now
man. You taught me something today.
now speaking of action figures, this one's about the action figure line.
Oh,
The very famous Stinkor action figure.
mm. Yeah, I do. I had that one.
The villain action figure who's essentially just a giant skunk whose
Yeah,
gimmick was that he smelt badly. His smell came from patchouli oil mixed into the plastic during manufacturing. And
yeah.
yes, they
I did
still do
hear.
stink.
I did hear that, and yeah, I think I came across my figure years later, and I was surprised that that figure still smelled the way that
They
it
still
smelled.
stink to this day. Yes, they do.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what they used on Moss Man, but his figure smelled like pine or fresh like moss, like yeah, if it smelled like you found it in the woods, and it kept that smell forever. I was just like, this is crazy that they did that. I mean, they had some crazy concepts for that line, and I was shocked to see that or hear that. That's crazy.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Be sure to check us out on our socials. I mentioned. Drop us a like, give us a follow. That way you can always check for updates. Never miss an episode. Look out for our streaming schedule, or just some news and funnies we share throughout the week. Also, if you want to support our, you can always check out our Patreon. If you like the show and you want to help us keep the lights on, you can become a patron for as low as $2 a month. You can become a league member, and that will get you access to exclusive pre-show and post-show content each week, as well as our retro movie reviews. This next week will be one of those, but we'll be giving out to general audiences, so you can see what you'd be getting. Or just a little bit more, $5 a month, you become a Power League member, getting pre-show, post-show, retro reviews, a discount code for our merch store, and you also get producer credits in each and every episode. And I'm happy to announce we already have our first Power user, Hazy Eyed Girl, gave us a pledge for $5 a month. Hey, yay to her. She's going to have her name in the credits. Thank you for the support.
Awesome.
We love
Thank
it.
you for the support.
We hope we don't let you down.
Awesome. Well, another fantastic episode, man. I always have enjoyed talking to you, and I'm excited for the He-Man movie. I was reading just a little while ago on social media. I think they put a Rotten Tomatoes score out there, and some of the early screenings set for this weekend that people got to see, different podcasters. They all had good, positive things to say about it. So I'm happy to see the outcome, and we'll be talking about our review on the next episode.
Next episode's our review.
Yeah. I can't wait for that because we have so much to compare it to. I mean, like I said, this IP is over 40 years old, so we have so much that we talked about today that we can compare about it now. And if they would have taken this approach back when they could, of course, it would have looked different, would have felt different. But what are things that you like about the new movie? What are things you wish they did, or what would you have done if you had creative control? You'll find out our takes on that in the next episode of Secret Identities.
Again, thank everybody for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And we'd love to hear from you if you want to reach out on one of our socials or emails. Thanks, guys.
TDubb and our secret identities. I am TDubb, a working man by day, but secretly I defend from the forces of boredom and mediocrity. This is Jody, my faithful friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to us when we tore off our Clark Kent day job disguises and revealed our secret identities. My partner became the savvy Savage Jody, and I became the tenacious TDubb. Heroically bringing you all things superhero and sci-fi genre throughout the comics, TV, movie, and media landscape.